This video is a treat for me more than anything else, after coming off the heels of the last one. This is a Let's Player drama video, guys. So if that kind of nonsense ain't your cup of tea, click off now. Otherwise, let's go down this wild rabbit hole. If you've been watching me for a while, you know exactly how I feel about old YouTubers and Game Grumps and Egoraptor. We don't gotta rehash that again. So here's some quick context. When JonTron and Egoraptor realized that they needed an editor for Game Grumps, John suggested his high school friend Barry. After John left the channel, Barry stayed on, though he also eventually left. He was replaced by Kevin, who had applied for the editor job like a normal job, rather than simply being somebody's friend from before. Kevin eventually moved on to pursue an editing career in Hollywood, stating publicly that he was always more interested in the editing part of the job rather than the Let's Play part of the job. Kevin was replaced by Matt and Ryan of Super Mega. At this point, Super Mega wasn't really a big channel. Their initial growth came off the back of the Game Grumps Association. It was a pretty good deal for them. Egoraptor let them record the Super Mega episodes in the Game Grumps office and using Game Grumps equipment and game library, as well as giving them a ton of cross-promotion. Once Super Mega became popular in its own right, Matt and Ryan quit the Game Grumps editor job and branched off to do their own thing. These two guys are cut from the same cloth as everybody else in this sphere. Edgy as fuck back during the mid-2010s, which made them appealing and helped them grow, but in 2023 they're hyper-progressive, shitting all over anybody who still likes edgy jokes and pulling up the ladder behind them. A classic case of troll's remorse. For example, back during the 2020 Summer of Love, while Egoraptor was waffling over whether or not he should talk about Black Lives Matter with his platform because, well, he is a gaming channel, not a political one, while his fans strung him up for it because everything is political, Super Mega immediately jumped right into chant BLM along with everyone else. Anyway, we're here to talk about specifically the Super Mega sex pest allegation. Now, I've had my butt burned on topics like this before. I was wrong about the Pro Jared thing a few years back. He ended up being innocent. I was riding the hype train. It's always a bit cathartic to see a former edgy boy turned progressive get hit with allegations, but he was ultimately innocent. I was wrong to talk about it the way that I did. I even apologized to him, though I don't think he even knows who I am. But the point is, after the Pro Jared story, I made the decision to not cover shit like this until the hype died down. And well, it's been a couple weeks. The hype has died down. I know a common complaint about me is that I don't cover stories fast enough, but I like catching everything in one pass if possible. Also, real quick, I'm not going to go into super autistic detail responding to every single claim made in the various videos and streams today. There's hours of stuff to sift through. I'm just going to give you the overview of what went down. If you want somebody listening to and reacting to every single sentence of this drama, Chud Logic is your guy. He's spent like 12 hours on this shit. Okay, enough nonsense. Let's get going. There's an e-girl with the channel named Lex Updog who posted a 2-hour-long video titled My Experience with Dawn Durr and Super Mega. Jesus Christ, these allegations are getting longer and longer every single time, aren't they? Remember back when Angry Joe got slapped with a sex pest allegation? Back then, these were like twit-longers that took maybe 10 minutes to read through at the most. Now we're sitting here watching feature-length films about the drama of young California progressives. And it's got that zoomer editing too. Like, watch this bit.
For the past year and a half, almost 2 now, I've been keeping a secret that I didn't need to for someone else's sake, and that someone else was someone very close to me, as was the person who hurt me. At no point was I supported enough to even be incentivized to keep a secret for them, but I did out of loyalty that I didn't need to have because they didn't have any for me.
Look at how jittery it is. She's clearly cutting everything down rather than, doing one solid take. Except that crying, gotta leave that in. Okay, let's listen to the allegation.
The first night, that I had met him as a boyfriend after all that, and not really being that close with him. The first night that we say goodnight to everyone else at Matt's house, I think it was just Matt at this point. Don sexually assaulted me. He physically was forcing me, attempting to physically force me to give him oral. And the only reason why it didn't work was because I physically pushed him away multiple times. When you're in a long distance relationship with someone, you have to get to know someone. I feel like I'm a pretty direct person, and aside from what the situation is turned me into, I guess, but I feel like when this happened, I was especially this particular situation, I was no, I don't want to do this. And he kept telling me just do it. And like multiple times while he was like trying to force my head down. And he's like way bigger than me. I don't know. I was really freaked out after that. So eventually he let me go, but I just kind of shut down and just went with like whatever else he wanted that night. And like for the rest of the trip, I didn't know what to do in that situation.
So it sounds like Lex had an online-only relationship for several years with Dawn, who's a German, and the artist for the Super Mega channel. They finally met up in real life at Matt's house, as she was also friends with Matt and Ryan, the Super Mega duo, and he was in America. Their first night together, she's claiming he tried to force her to do oral. She's kinda ambiguous on whether or not he successfully forced her to do it, but he was rough and did something that she didn't like, and that's sexual assault. Okay, understood. Before we get in too deep to the schizo ramble, here's what I think the wider context and timeline is, since this video is all over the place. Super Mega is in LA, Lex is in Nashville, Dawn's in Germany trying to come to the States full-time to work for Super Mega. In November of 2021, Dawn and Lex are both visiting the Super Mega house, and that's when the alleged sexual assault took place. Despite this, they continue to associate and remain in a relationship until May of 2022. At that point, the Super Mega guys, Matt and Ryan, along with Lex and Dawn, attend Creator Clash in Tampa, where they share an Airbnb. It's during this trip that Lex ends the relationship with Dawn. Let's hear about Dawn's description of that night's events, because after this went viral, he wrote up his side of their relationship on Twitter. I want to start this off by apologizing to Lex for any trauma she may feel regarding our past relationship, and to anyone just finding out about this who feels they were being lied to or kept in the dark. In regards to what happened during November 2021, this is my side as to what happened. Lex and I were invited over by Matt to stay over at his place for a week. We had been intimate since day one, but on the third night, I asked her for oral. She at first said no because she had a cold sore. Later, I asked her again, and she said yes, but to be careful not to be too rough. During the act, I had pushed down on her head, after which she recoiled and told me I was being too rough. I then profusely apologized, and we ended up watching TV and going to bed after.
I just kind of shut down and just went with like whatever else he wanted that night.
Things were normal for the rest of the week until the trip was over and we went back home. During this time, I was under no impression that anything traumatizing had occurred. However, I realize now this is extremely upsetting for her. So to me, so far, calling this sexual assault isn't accurate. He clearly went too far, but he stopped when she objected. He apologized and they were both good. Anybody who's been in a relationship knows this is kind of common, where one person accidentally does something the other person doesn't like. There's no intention to hurt anybody there, they just stop and deal with it like adults. This is normal behavior. Awkward sexual experiences aren't assault. They don't need to be policed or brought to light in public. They're simply a part of having sex. Lex goes over what Dawn acted like after she informed him, making light of his reaction, calling it performative.
The way I told him was basically, I was basically like, hey, do you remember November when we first hung out? And he was like, yeah. I basically asked him questions that necessitated him saying yes or no to, because I wanted it to be easy for me, and I wanted it to be easy for him because I didn't want it to take too long. I didn't think it needed to for me to tell him the way I was going to tell him. So I said, you remember the first night when you were like pushing my head down and I was telling you no? Yes, he says, basically. He like didn't dispute anything that I said, he was just saying yes. And I was like, you know that's sexual assault, right? Like, you can't do that to people. Like, that wasn't cool that you did that to me. I've been like really like messed up that you did that. I like have to like get better from this. This is something that I'm like having to recover from because it's making me not well. Like, basically explained to him all but like a baby that sexual assault is bad and that what he did was that and that you can't do it. Because all it takes, all it would have taken is for me to have been like, no, I don't want to, and for him to stop, but he didn't. Nonetheless, so I say all this, and he says, so does that mean you're breaking up with me? And I was like, what? Yeah. To me, it was like, yeah, no. And that, out of everything I said, was both the shortest response I had to say, or like the shortest thing I had to say to him, and the most devastating. We're on a sidewalk, like we're walking, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to be with you. And he stops directly under the streetlight and does this for like a minute in front of me. I don't know. It felt so performative.
Now remember, all of these people are super progressive, super woke, including Dawn. Imagine it from his point of view, if he genuinely believed in progressive values. He's being told that his girlfriend is dumping him, and that he unknowingly committed sexual assault on her. This is how a person with those values would react. This is realistic to me. It's funny that Lex assumes that Dawn's reaction is performative, when even her miming it is more convincing than any of her own reactions in her video. Let's go back to Dawn's statement. Our relationship seemed to have not changed. We were talking on Discord almost daily and planning future trips together. However, a couple of months later, we met during Creator Clash. During the trip, me and Lex stayed together in an Airbnb, and I noticed that she was growing very distant towards me. I asked her about why she was distant and if everything was okay, but I was not given a straight answer. On the final day, she finally told me why she was so troubled. She told me I was too rough with her last time, and it reminded her of her ex's behavior. I tried to apologize and we talked a little bit after, but after the conversation had ended, she had broken up with me, and I left the Airbnb to stay with other friends. At this time, I had contacted Matt and told him what had just gone down. Matt had offered to fly me to LA to stay at his place to figure things out. At his house, I explained to him and Ryan what had happened and the details about the November trip, and what she had told me after Creator Clash. After that, I stayed over at his place for the next couple of weeks. Later, Matt told me that he had made some arrangements for his friends to sleep over at his place, moving me to stay at their office. A couple of days at the office had passed when Matt called me and said that Lex was on her way to the office. I was given no prior notice that she was going to be there or moving to LA. It was at this time I decided to leave and stay with other friends in the area. After a week I had flown back to Germany, I was then contacted by Super Mega that they were not going to be using my art anymore. After that, they cut contact with me, and I have not heard from them since. Following this, I decided to send Lex another apology via Discord, but I got no reply from her. At this time, I accepted that I was not going to hear back from Lex or Super Mega for the foreseeable future. See, this story sounds like Matt is helping out his friend, putting Dawn up at the Super Mega house until he has gone back to Germany. But after Lex shows up in LA, suddenly he's cut off. To me, it sounds like Lex probably convinced Super Mega to cut Dawn loose, and once he was out of the States, they probably figured it was time to sever ties. Lex all but confirms as much in her video.
So there was a chunk of time, I want to say around a week after I got there, that I just didn't do that much. That and like mentally recovering from Creator Clash. And as that span of time occurred, every time I'd look on my phone, I'd notice things were going on in LA. Like, why is Dawn in LA? I thought he was going back to Germany. Turns out Matt invited Dawn to stay with him after Creator Clash, after he was done staying in Florida and I think maybe somewhere else. It occurs to me that I'm gonna need to talk to more people about the Dawn thing, what happened with him, to give context to why I don't want to see him.
Well, would you look at that? Lex is bedridden back at home due to the trials and tribulations of her drama-filled life. She checks her phone and sees that Dawn went to LA to hang out with Super Mega, and she's thinking, shit, I gotta get to LA and talk to those guys, so they know not to hang out with them anymore. This is unironically despicable behavior. As I said before, Super Mega is run by progressives and watched by progressives. So if I had to guess, there was some ruthless utilitarian calculus involved here, in the optics of keeping on an artist who is being accused of sexual assault, regardless of the truth of the claims. This is the only claim with possible teeth in Lex's entire 2-hour video, that initial sexual assault claim from the November 2021 visit to the Super Mega house. Every other thing she brings up just isn't relevant. It's like she has a vendetta against Super Mega and is using Dawn's behavior as a way to take them down. So she ropes in every single other complaint she has and tries to make them look worse by attaching them to the sexual assault. Here's some examples. Dawn wanted to stay in the States to keep working on Super Mega. Everyone was friends and they were all cool, so they suggested that he marry Lex to get a green card as an option. Lex reacted in her video as if this was them selling her off or something.
For a while, Dawn had been trying to get a green card to live in the US, and since we were dating, he had for a while been hinting that like it would be easier if we just got married for him to come live in the US, and it had been going on for a bit now. And that day, Dawn had he had been talking about it with me. He had been asking Super Mega about filing papers to get a green card. And Matt, at least I know Matt, I'm sure Brian too, Super Mega in general, had no interest in doing that for him. But they never, up until this point, never told him no straight out. Never was like, yeah, we're not doing that. They would just give reasons why it was really hard or really expensive to do that. So once again, he asked Matt, and him and I were walking up the stairs to Matt's living room, and Matt responded something along the lines of like, why don't you guys just get married? To which Dawn seemed like reciprocal to that idea.
Like, this ain't the Middle East, lady. You can just say no. Lex leaks some Discord messages from 2022, months after the alleged forced blowjob, and Dawn is here saying, I love you very much, and she's replying with, I love you too. This is completely normal relationship stuff, and Lex is trying to spin it like it's evidence of him manipulating her. The story's unreal, man. Lex mentions that she was on the Super Mega podcast with Dawn, where she was acting uncomfortable with his presence, and then says, go look it up if you want to see it yourself.
If you've watched that or listened to that podcast, there's a part in it where Don starts telling a story, context to do with me or something. There was a sentence where he starts to say something. From having known him on and off for like 4 years, I knew that he was gonna say something about us dating. And even though I had wanted that before this trip in November of 2021, I'd asked him multiple times, like, do you want to be public about this? Because we had been before, so I just didn't think of it as a big deal. And he didn't want to, would still draw me art, but only send it to me. So I got a really bad feeling when he started to bring it up. Mind you, I hadn't processed what he had done yet at all, really, besides the fact that I knew he did what I told him not to do, and it made me not feel good. So if I knew he was about to announce, or like not announce, or like casually mention that we were dating in a podcast, wouldn't I want him to mention that? Like of course I would, right? But instead, I interrupt him. I interrupted him, and I made him stop, and I told him, like, I just made a joke or something. I think I said, like, I'm gonna kill you. If you are somebody that likes their podcast or have watched it before, give a shit, you can go find it. There's a part where Don just stops talking. And with this context, if you listen back to it, I think it makes sense. I remember being so anxious. I feel like I was having like a mini panic attack or something.
I did go look it up, only to discover that the podcast had been deleted from the Super Mega channel. Don't worry though, the internet never forgets.
Both of you guys have been staying with me at my house for the last week or so.
You know why?
Why?
Should we tell everyone? Because
I'm gonna kill him.
Is there a secret?
Keep in mind, guys, this conversation is after the sexual assault. Does this sound like she's traumatized and doesn't want him to be there? Not to me. In fact, despite her earlier claim that he was being distant and manipulative, it sounds like he wants the relationship to be public, and she's the one cutting him off. I don't know why an OnlyFans model might want to keep a relationship a secret, though. That's just beyond my understanding. Lex talks about a sexual experience she had when she was underage with a 21-year-old man, which doesn't excuse it, it sounds like she wanted at the time, and how that experience massively traumatized her.
10 years ago this year, I had actually called someone out before. I did it a bit over a year after it happened because I also didn't process it, but it was also with an ex-boyfriend. I was 17 and he was 21, and I also told him no the whole time and he still kept going. So it felt like I was like reliving something I'd gone through before.
Lex draws parallels between the 21-year-old's behavior and Dawn's, although she never actually outlines how Dawn's behavior is abusive, beyond that one awkward experience that Dawn apologized for. She still ultimately calls him an abuser in her video. Lex talks about somebody in their friend circle named Leighton, who apparently was doing something with Game Grumps and their merch.
I didn't feel comfortable, so I called Leighton first. I didn't know him nearly as long at all, but I feel like he had gone through, or has gone through enough that him and I both like talked about, that I know he would relate when I told him, or like understand and like believe me when I told him.
I don't know, I don't really care, it's entirely irrelevant. She probably brought him up because he believed her story unquestioningly. Lex also talks about how, after getting to the Super Mega house in LA, and Dawn is finally cast out of the friend group, she begins living there with her friend Rev. They're both trying to get on their feet and find a place to live in LA, and Matt and Ryan are graciously putting them up until they can get their own apartment. Lex is ambiguous about how long they stayed at the Super Mega house, but it seems to be quite a while, as eventually the guys simply offer to pay the first couple months' rent on a new place, just to get her out of there. But listen to how she recontextualizes that gift.
Matt offered to pay for me to live somewhere, like down payment plus several months, which if you're in LA, if you know anything about the housing market in LA, is an exorbitant amount of money. Jim's asleep next to us, just me and him in his living room, and he says this. Most freaked out I think I've ever been by him, aside from the phone call, obviously. I immediately said no. At this point, I didn't fully distrust him. I just had a gut feeling that no one gives you that amount of money for no reason without something to gain from it. It felt like a bribe. That's at least like, I don't know, the way he was saying it, that's at least like 10K. And like, regardless of how much it means to him or not, I didn't want it. I felt like weirded out that he did that. He was saying this so I could live alone in LA. Like specifically apartment money for me to live alone. It was very weird. I turned him down, and we ended whatever conversation we were having, and I went to sleep.
That's right. Rather than taking this as a clear sign she needs to move on, she considers it bribe money for covering up the Dawn's sexual assault and views it as the Super Mega crew pushing her to be isolated in LA. The rest of the video documents Lex's travels with Rev to Nevada, to Washington State, to North California, all the while living for free at the Super Mega house for months, and Matt and Ryan trying to politely push them into finding their own place to live. Lex characterizes these excursions simultaneously as vacations and work trips because she would shoot a few OnlyFans pics on the road, something that she complained she couldn't do at the Super Mega house because it's a studio for Let's Plays, not your e-thought stuff.
One of the things was that I noticed when we were gone is that we stopped getting asked as many questions. It was mostly just about where we were so they could know when we would be gone or when we would be back to be gone fast, right? So, and when we were out, I would take pictures, and those pictures ended up surprisingly popping off and making me the money I was making last summer because I couldn't at the Super Megaplex do regular work. Like, I can't set up a photo set station for myself and like take photos in clothes that I wouldn't feel comfortable wearing around the guys at the office, for example. So me getting like a desk or making a workspace just wasn't an option, and I didn't know that until after I got there.
So she's driving around the west half of America, going on trips, seeing her friends, blowing money left and right, tons of frivolous spending, by her own admission.
Me and Rav at this point had been going to meet realtors every however many other days, but we didn't have like most of our stuff to actually move in, and two, we were Ubering everywhere. So a lot of the money that could have went to actually securing a place to stay went to getting an Uber, to getting Ubers, like hundreds of dollars in Ubers just living in LA.
Her stuff is apparently getting constantly stolen.
The day after this conversation takes place, we get robbed. I have no photos of that because as soon as I woke up and saw the car was empty of stuff, I just screamed as loud as possible, called the cops. No reason. They could not help. And then just cried a bunch and then made a post about it, which apparently was laughed at by the guys at the office. That day that I got robbed and I posted about it, no one that I knew in LA messaged me.
Her extremely expensive car is constantly breaking down.
Didn't even include in those figures buying the car. I think we spent 2 days on that, trying to find the car and then buying it, which I could have spent more time on it because I ended up getting a car that needed a $4,000 repair when I got back to LA. So I suffered because of having to rush from knowing I was going to be asked, instead of them just either giving me a date to leave by or asking me like, do you know when you can be gone by? Instead, they would just say, you guys on a vacation again?
And if she's so broke, so hard done by, why did she buy a fucking Jeep? If you just need to be getting around LA, why not buy a little city car? Jeeps are expensive. Basically, Lex seems to have tons of money, and rather than moving forward with trying to get on her own 2 feet in LA, she's living at the Super Mega house for free, leeching off of her friends and living the high life. When Matt and Ryan become a bit more insistent that Lex move the fuck out of their office, here's how she frames that situation.
When we get back in town, there's a group chat where essentially me, Rav, Matt, and Ryan are all going back and forth, and it's basically Matt and Ryan telling us all the things we did wrong that made them not want us there anymore. After both we got kind of kicked out, like nicely kicked out, and robbed and not contacted by them after, their next correspondence is like telling us we were dirty. We were dirty. The people that would spend hours cleaning up the office from when guys would order every single day often don't throw it away. They have a person come by, but it's only once a month, so you can imagine the mess that gets made between the time. And it was getting blamed on us.
We're still not even at the point where Super Mega's involved in the drama yet, guys. Don's their channel artist, but he's already been given the boot. You think that would be the end of the drama as far as Super Mega's concerned, but here is how Lex tries to rope them in.
It's just, we're trying to get our lives together, and we've been nothing but generous to y'all during this time. I think the idea that there are grievances time and time again with our friendship when we've been helping you whenever we can is confusing. It's not a good feeling and overwhelming. Especially since this year has been nothing but drama since the jump. Literally nothing to do with me at all, or Rav. I don't care. No one's saying that to me. No one's saying I know you've dealt with a lot. Like they're saying they're only bringing it up as like we've dealt with you. Like Rav just was like, congrats about the bad thing that is good now. And when it gets brought up for us, it's about like, we've been helping you time and time again. And there's still grievances time and time again. It's only been one grievance. It was always the same grievance. It was the same thing that no one listened to me for. And when I tried to talk about it, no one wanted to talk about it. And now it's a problem. And I'm homeless, sitting in this creepy, weird sex trafficking room, getting told that like we're annoying, basically. That like we have too many grievances. I got assaulted, man. Could you guys just like care? Like, why'd you switch up? What happened to keeping him accountable, Ryan? Like, this year's been nothing but drama since the jump. For you, I don't think they relate to anything bad that we've been through. I don't have to see Don anymore. What he did to me, I don't have to think about. But when someone is treating me actively different all the time in front of me, my only friends in LA that my only plan of like staying somewhere, my only like safe place, didn't want to help me, said they did nothing but helped me, and then gaslit me about it and made me homeless. Cause like, sure, maybe saying made me homeless is like maybe extreme, but one, how else would you say that? Two, we could have talked. Literally all we had to do was do this. We tried doing it even after and they still didn't want to. So how do you get someone to talk to you when they refuse to? You just can't.
You heard that, right? Lex is pinning everything on Super Mega because the initial assault, that awkward sexual encounter with Dawn that apparently was tantamount to super rape, that happened at Matt's house during a party. What the fuck, man? What do you expect them to do? They already fired him, and now that they want you to stop partying and spending all your money while living rent-free in their studio, and they're getting tired with the whole, oh, I lost my phone, oh, my laptop got stolen stuff, and they want you gone, you're blaming them and saying they're not taking the Dawn assault story seriously enough. In fact, the end of this tale is that Lex had to move back home because she couldn't make it, and she blames that on Matt and Ryan.
I had so much stuff, I couldn't fit it all in one trip to go. So I had to drop off some of it at a storage unit. We moved to Airbnb in Hollywood in September. And September was the last month I stayed in LA until I was finally able to get back home. And you know what Matt did before Crater Clash this year? He texted me, how's Tennessee? As if he's not the reason I'm there. And when I didn't respond, he took me off his Instagram close friends. Didn't unfollow me, he just like didn't want me to see the stuff he really has to say.
That's right. The reason Lex's big move to LA failed is because the people she was mooching off of finally kicked her out. Okay, here's that tiny nugget in here that got Super Mega's audience to turn on them. It's when Lex claims that Matt's response to her alleged sexual assault at the hands of Dawn was to say that he didn't want this drama to destroy Super Mega.
When someone says like, hey, your friend assaulted me, that friend happens to be a coworker, can I not see him? And you say, this job is my magnum opus multiple times. There's like, you just like don't care about people. You just like care about yourself. Like you just don't see people as like real things anymore. And that definitely is like how I felt to him.
If true, that's obviously pretty shitty to say. That he's more worried about these allegations tanking his channel than he is about the allegation that one of his friends sexually assaulted another one of his friends. And then Lex alleges a second sexual assault by a different guy.
And okay, so my reference of Jim is that this is a silly guy. So when he like sits down on the couch next to me and then lays down and stretches out, I'm like, he's just being silly. So I tell him the whole story. I tell him everything that happened, you know, up until then. I'm pretty sure I even said about that Don was there at the office and all that, just because he came to me asking why I looked upset a lot. So of course, that's all the reasons. When he heard my story, he was like, man, I'm so sorry. And then proceed to like start flirting with me like right after. This is when I realized, because I was doing most of the talking, that after I was done with the story and he started talking, like he started saying flirty things and like he started putting me in a headlock, that I was like, oh, he's drunk. And like pretty much right after I realized that, he started kissing me. If you've ever seen a picture of Jim, he's a really tall guy. It was not even in my brain to be like, get this guy off of me, or like, not get this guy off of me. Yes, I didn't want to kiss him. Because to me, this guy, am not that close friends with. Like, we are just from the same place. And like, I thought he wanted to like get to know me better. Listens to my sexual assault story and then makes out with me. Like, at this rate, I'm just kind of stun locked. I had no idea what he's doing. I don't know if there's even any other people in the place. I think there was 2 other people. I think Matt and Rav were still there. So he like gets up at some point after like putting me in a chokehold a few more times and kissing. He only kissed me a couple times, but he put me in a chokehold for a while and it was very uncomfortable. He like gets up and then goes to the office and he's like, come here. I don't even remember thinking anything. I was literally just like confused. And because when he said that, he was in the office, but he was in the closet. And when I came over to him, because I was just fucking, I was like, why in my head, I'm thinking, why is this guy just went to the office closet? Like the office where like everybody has their computers and there's like a coat closet and you just go in there and stand in the doorway and give me a kiss again. Like I didn't even have like a reaction. I just didn't know what the fuck that was. And then after that, I was like, do you like me or something? Because I genuinely just so like, it came out of nowhere. Like I said, I just told him about being assaulted and he does this. And his answer is, I think you're cute. It is so fucking weird.
Okay, he's drunk, you didn't realize it, he's putting the moves on you, he kisses you, you don't want it. I got it. The issue is, when he moves from the living room to the back room and then beckons you over, you know what he's thinking after the kiss. You're not retarded. If you weren't into it, why did you go over there with him? At some point, you can't blame other people for your actions. Saying shit like, my self-esteem was so poor, I just do whatever the men around me want, doesn't make it their fault. It is your responsibility to assert your own boundaries and manage your own weaknesses. Like, listen to her wording here.
He had essentially used me for nudes. I had a not safe for work Patreon and he used to sub to it when we weren't dating anymore. And so I kept like a boundary with him over it because I was mad at him. Not necessarily mad at him, but he was my ex. I didn't want to talk to him. And gradually he like pushed that boundary over. He like unsubbed from my Patreon at one point when we were talking normally enough, and he like would message me and ask me if it would be okay if I would send him like the files from the Patreon. And I would be like, you mean like the old ones that you're sub to? And he was like, no, like new ones, or like all of them. I didn't want to, but my boundaries were so poor, I said yeah anyway. Like at this point we had talked enough that I thought he liked me, so I was trying not to assume poorly of him because I just genuinely didn't think he would do that, and then he did. So he was like letting me leak my own nudes to him.
He was letting me leak my own nudes to him. Like he has control over whether or not you allow this. No, you did this. He asked you, you complied. It might have been shitty of him to ask, but that doesn't mean that he's at fault for your compliance. Lex ultimately blames this on some new quasi-therapeutic bullshit called flight or fawn.
You know how there's fight, flight, or fawn? I think I did fawn. I'm looking this up. I don't want to fuck this up. Fawn, people pleaser, lack of identity, no boundaries, overwhelmed, codependent. Yep.
Flight or fight, we all know well enough. It refers to 2 psychological knee-jerk responses to a threat. You run away or you fight back. Well, modern therapy speak has led to flight or fawn taking its place, where people like Lex knee-jerk to either running away or cuddling up to their abusers in an attempt to minimize the abuse. There's probably some psychological basis for this, but I'm willing to bet this became a thing solely because some middle-aged hipster therapist wanted a way to tell her neurotic, sexually dysfunctional female clients that they're not at fault for any bad decisions they make in their lives. These people are not mature enough to engage in sexual activity. I know they're legally mature enough and physically sure, but mentally, Lex seems to be about 12 years old. You don't innocently walk into a side room with a drunk guy after making out without any expectation about what's going to happen next, unless you're either extremely dishonest or extremely immature. Every time she talks about an event, it's never her fault. A man must have mind-fucked her, and if she agreed to do it, it wasn't really her. The tragedies of life just keep coming at her from all directions, like they do for all of us. And you can't expect her to stop vacationing and stop mooching when her dog died and her car breaks down and her phone gets stolen. She genuinely sounds like a child. I know that victims of legitimate sexual assault, or rape or abuse or whatever, can often make bad decisions in the moment that, if they weren't emotionally compromised, they wouldn't make. But we're talking about months and years of interactions where she just keeps coming back, keeps doing the same stuff, and it doesn't square up with me. That's not proof, but my gut tells me this is all trumped up. I don't buy the whole, oh, it takes time to process the trauma thing in this case. Not with that awkward Dawn experience anyway. I mean, it is entirely possible that Lex is just massively fucked up from that sexual experience with a 21-year-old when she was a teenager. It's also entirely possible she is throwing everything possible at the wall in order to tie Super Mega to the awkward sexual experience she had with Dawn, that she has retroactively defined as a sexual assault despite continuing the relationship with him for months as a way to cancel Super Mega as revenge for her big career leap of moving to LA failing because they wouldn't let her mooch off of them anymore and kicked her freeloading ass out of the Super Mega house. Frankly, it's probably both. Everything in Lex's video feels like a vindictive ex-girlfriend bringing up all the things that her former boyfriend did that she didn't like. And now that they've broken up, it's time to air all the dirty laundry. And she's doing it under the cover of an assault or abuse allegation. Feels very Jonah Hill all over again, you know? In Lex's entire video, the only thing that matters is did Dawn actually commit the assault? Everything else is just window dressing. Anyway, yeah, Lex's attempt to make it to the big city finally ends with her, after returning from a Seattle trip with Rev, staying at a hostel in Santa Monica that she describes as sex trafficker Giga Rape Central, which she blames Super Mega for as they won't let her stay with them anymore.
So after we go to Seattle, get robbed in Portland, the stuff we get robbed of: laptop, iPad, work clothes, makeup, toiletries. I'm a model and an artist. Those are all the things that I need to make money in the world. So at that point, priority number one was no longer finding a place to live, but rebuying those things so I could make the money to get a place to live. At this point, we just had drove back into town and we had nowhere to stay. Trying to save all of our money to rebuy our stuff ASAP. So since I have a Jeep, we just sleep in the car. I go to Santa Monica, Malibu area in between there and just go park by the ocean because it's free. The first place we stayed outside of the Plex was like some rinky-dink hotel in Pasadena. It was like obviously like used for sex trafficking. Like it was a giant master bedroom with a hot tub and it had a corded phone with the cable cut.
She eventually has to go back to Nashville, and she blames the power dynamics of Super Mega being a large YouTube channel and white males and all the rest of it as to why her career didn't take off and she couldn't hack it in LA.
The way these guys like do group chats is they all go in the office together and like play football and like make a plan and like who's doing good cop, bad cop ass shit. Very manipulative. But how else do you think they would have had Jim message me with Matt in there? They all work together. Why does Matt need to be in there? Except for a power dynamic. Like, they know what they're doing.
Here's the final spin that she pulls in the story.
I've been holding on to this weight for over a year for no reason. What loyalty do these people have to me that I need to be like, I need to protect them? What did they do for me? They let me stay at their place and then made me feel weird about it after they were like, hey, your assaulter's gonna be here when I got there. Like, I don't know. Then they word stuff like, I have to feel like I owe them something. I don't owe them anything. They weren't charging me rent. They said I could stay there. You know, if he didn't like me there, he could have done a lot of different things. He could have just opened his mouth and talked to me. That's what adults do. Contrary to popular belief, adults communicate and are mature and don't just leave everything to text and their employees and act like that's normal and gaslight people about it and gaslight people about like being upset about your reaction to assault.
That's right. Dawn's a rapist. Super Mega fired him not for her sake, but to cover it up and save their own skin, and Lex is the victim because she can no longer stay with them free of charge. But before she finishes up, Lex drops this fucking bombshell.
I don't think they relate to anything bad that we've been through. And the one thing they could, which was Rav's partner attempting to like take themselves, was Daniel, their friend Daniel. Matt's like at least twice in front of me, separate times we'll hang out with him, has called Daniel a coward. So no, they don't care about suicide. They don't give a shit about suicide. They only give a shit about themselves and who they can make jokes of that are under them that they can get away with.
For those of you who don't know, Daniel was the IRL friend of Matt and Ryan. The three of them were pals before YouTube. Before Super Mega, they ran the YouTube channel Syndigo from 2012 until 2015, creating some really funny videos. The channel ended when Daniel killed himself in 2015. Unlike Super Mega, which got big due to the Game Grumps connection, Syndigo blew up because the three of them genuinely work well together. And they consistently made good, viral content. It's not an exaggeration to say that Matt and Ryan may never have recovered their careers after the loss of Daniel without the exposure of Game Grumps. After Daniel's suicide, Matt and Ryan stopped updating the Syndigo channel after posting a video discussing what happened and a tribute to Daniel, and then went on to reboot their YouTube careers with the Super Mega channel. I've seen longtime viewers of Matt and Ryan remark that their humor on Super Mega is nowhere near as good as their humor on Syndigo. I'm presuming partially because Daniel was an integral component of their dynamic, and partially because Daniel's suicide radically changed Matt and Ryan's personalities. For Lex to bring Daniel up and make the claim that Matt actually didn't give a shit about him, that is the ultimate low blow. That is the moment that it's confirmed she truly is a heartless bitch. Way earlier in the video, in one of Lex's side stories, I mentioned a guy named Leighton and his weird dealings with Game Grumps merch. Well, you know how a canceling event goes, right? When Lex's story went viral, everybody who ever had a beef with Super Mega came out of the woodwork to pile on, and one of them was Leighton, this living broccoli patch of a Zoomer. Alright, let's see what he's got to say.
I found Super Mega in college. I was 3 weeks older than Matt. I was so inspired by the stupid shit that these boys were doing, and I felt like, I don't know, like I was inspired. My entire career got started in 2017 by H3H3. And that, all I've ever wanted to do is YouTube. Making content, making clothing, making, like, drawing, like, producing videos, doing content has been the only thing I've ever wanted to do. And Super Mega was the first channel that I fully interacted with in person. That, like, wanted to put me in things.
Dude, why are you fucking crying right off the bat? You just started the stream. What the fuck, man? Are you this weak? Look at his chat room, it's full of simps. I had to pull this from Chud's video because Leighton's taken his VOD down. Look at all the mouth breathers. They're just here to enjoy the spectacle of somebody getting ruined over drama, that's it. As for Leighton himself, it sounds like he really idolized Super Mega. He really wanted to be a YouTuber himself, and he considered working for them to be a real opportunity, which is apparently why he's crying so much. Leighton's story is just as meandering as Lex's, where he relitigates every single thing that ever went wrong in his life, presumably as a way to garner sympathy from the audience and make him seem less responsible for his actions. A lot of it is gay kid bullied in high school for being gay kind of stuff. And fair enough, that can be pretty rough. But here's the actual meat of his allegation.
Also, by the way, you guys, when Matt and Ryan fired me, they offered me 2 months severance in exchange for a contract to never talk about them. And because I'm an artist and I live in LA and I need fucking money, I signed the goddamn contract and was like, all right, there I go. Like, you guys now know in perpetuity that I can't say, it's the golden, like, it's called a non-disparagement. It means that if you can't say anything nice about them, you can't say anything at all. And I am so fucking terrified that these guys are gonna sue me because I can't afford to legally represent myself. And that's why I've been so fucking scared to talk about these guys.
Holy shit, dude. Are you actually admitting on stream that you're breaking your fucking NDA with Super Mega? They handed Leighton a big sack of money with the understanding that he would not do exactly what he's doing right now, which makes him deleting his fucking stream make a lot more sense. This guy's a super dumbass.
Brother, like, I'm trying to, like, pay rent. Like, I'm not trying to, like, get in a fucking lawsuit. I don't want drama.
I don't want the drama. Well, then what are you doing here, bro? Leighton makes the claim that Super Mega made a joke about his lithium use on their podcast, which is pretty fucking dumb to do about your employee's mental illness on air, yeah.
I hadn't really made my mental health a fucking thing publicly, and then I'm streaming one day, and then Matt, it was someone in my chat just was like, hey, Matt said on the podcast that he's gonna take away your fucking lithium. I have bipolar 2, or like something like that, along the lines of that. And I played it off on stream, you know, but like afterwards, like, it was fucking weird.
Yep, fair enough. That's a weird joke to make, especially if Leighton's medical issues aren't public. He's got a point there. Leighton's next claim revolves around him thinking that everyone at the workplace hates him.
Anytime I would come into the office 5 days a week, pretty much here's how the operation would work. If I come into a room where everybody's in, they're laughing, they're joking, if I join the conversation, if I sit in and I listen, I'm fine. But if I start talking and I actually involve myself, either the group circles in closer, so I'm not in the actual physical circle. Someone will talk over me until I shut up. Someone will say a joke like, you're gay, or, you know, stuff like that, because it's funny. But I would get downplayed or ignored or talked over, or just, I was given this like petty treatment. And then I'm sitting there thinking, these guys clearly fucking hate me because they're doing this to me every day. And then I ask them why they hate me and if they have issues, and they're like, we're good with our issues. We just need to communicate more. But yet they keep fucking doing this shit to me. They kept, literally these people in front of me would, like, imagine, like, the people who you think are your best friends. Now imagine all of them in front of you making plans to hang out with each other after work all the fucking time and not inviting you. And it's not like I felt entitled, like I had to be involved, but it literally felt like petty shit that they were making plans in front of me because they all knew that they were my only friends at the time, like, around. Like, my other friends also do content and they're very, very busy with their jobs, so those guys I saw the most. So they would be making plans to go do shit after work in front of me and then not ask me if I wanted to go. And then it happened so much that I truly feel like it was on purpose.
This is just work drama and friend group drama at this point. Nobody's obligated to like you off the clock. Are you still mentally back in high school, dude? You're acting like it. Well, hold on, he did say he has anxiety and BPD and bipolar. Maybe he actually is.
I was telling these fuckers constantly about my BP1, my bipolar 1 and BPD and my paranoia and how I literally feel like every person in my fucking life hates me all the time.
But then Leighton recontextualizes a huge chunk of Lex's story from the previous part. Listen to this.
Like, Lex and Rav are the people that, like, when you're hanging out with them, they're always the ones contributing all the weed. They're the ones that are ordering Uber Eats and then they pass you their phone and you're like, no, I'm not really hungry. I don't want to get anything. Like, I can't afford it right now. And then they're like, instantly, they look at you like you're fucking stupid for assuming that you have to pay them back. Like, they would just be like, no, like, we're boys. I got you.
Yeah, dude, that's why they didn't have the cash to stay in LA. They were blowing it all on weed and Uber Eats. They're literally the Taylor Lorenz millennial $22 avocado toast can't afford a house meme. Man, the fucking gall to say that you're poor and you're homeless and it's other people's fault that your big adventure of moving to LA failed and you had to move back home when you're spending all your money on takeout and weed. Leighton then pulls the same dick punch move that Lex did, bringing up Daniel's suicide. However, he recontextualized it to be about his own suicide attempts.
They would make jokes about Daniel. Like, they would make jokes where, like I'm someone where, like, I've attempted suicide. I am a very depressed person because of my bipolar. I make jokes about killing myself all the time. That is a true fact. But I make jokes about myself or things like that. I'm not making jokes to hurt people or making jokes about people that have hurt themselves. But Matt and Ryan make jokes about Daniel. Like they make jokes about Daniel.
That's right, Leighton makes it all about him and how uncomfortable them talking about Daniel's suicide made him. I'm sorry, bro. You're just not mentally stable enough to be an internet personality. It's simple as that. Regardless of the veracity of any of your claims, or any good reasons you have for being fucked up or whatever, if you are so weak that you just crumple like this at the slightest bit of pushback, get off the camera, dog. Part of that suicide conversation revolved around how there was some kid who tried to kill himself, and Super Mega had the opportunity to send him some free merch. Sign it, do a good deed. The problem is, this kid wasn't even a fan of Super Mega.
His family knew that he loved YouTube comedy, but they couldn't confirm if he was a fan of Super Mega. That they just didn't know. But they knew he liked YouTube comedy. I got the merch ordered for the kid without talking to the boys first. But I come to them, they're both sitting in their desks in this office, and there were 4 desks. Everyone had like Matt and Ryan are on opposite sides of the room, and then across from that, you have my desk and Justin's desk. Justin was there that day. He was in the room with us. And so I thought nothing of the story. Like, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. Like, I asked Matt and Ryan to sign this book, and I start telling them the story, and they instantly just, like, go the fuck off on these stupid fucking jokes, being like they instantly go, why are we doing this? He's not a fan. Like, how do we know he's a fan? And I was like, it doesn't matter. Just give him the fucking book.
No, it absolutely matters. It's one thing if, some fan is suicidal and they love your shit and your videos help them get through the day, and then you send them a goodie bag. That's a good deed. But if you're just sending your junk to random suicidal kids, that's not helping out the community. That's shamelessly promoting yourself off of their suicide attempt. Also, this is just a personal theory that I have. There's no proof of it. But Leighton mentions offhandedly that the kid in question is somebody that his mom knows back in his hometown.
My mom instantly, she's like, yes, I can get Leighton to get some merch, get him a book. Like, We have to help him.
Was he just trying to score some free shit for somebody using his connections? It's possible, but again, there's no proof. It just feels likely to me personally. Next up are Leighton's complaints about workplace shenanigans.
I get hired, I join the team officially, and then I'm walking down the hallway towards the kitchen, and Matt yells from the office in the back room that he's going, that he might as well show me his dick and balls because I'm gonna see it anyways. So he goes, "Hey, Leighton," and I turn around, and sure, like I didn't, you know what I mean? Like I just think it's a bit. But I turn around, but the dude's dick and balls are out. These guys in front of me decide, and our cinematographer Tucker, they decide that they want to compare their assholes to each other. So one at a time, Matt and Ryan decide to just pull their pants down right next to me while I just have to be sitting there on camera. And show they're literally like faces in each other's assholes. Matt Jackson and I go out. We get extra drunk. We're having the time of our life. Like, yeah, we're just in this bar. We're getting blasted. And then at one point, I go to the bathroom, and I go into the stall, and I close the door, and I'm peeing. And the next thing that I know is that Matt's now entered my stall that I'm in. That I closed the door. And his camera is like put out in front, so he's like front facing. He's filming just my dick and balls. He's filming me pee.
Okay, you know what? Fair enough, he's got a point. Your boss shouldn't be pulling out his dick and balls and showing them to you at the office, or showing his asshole to other guys in the recording room, or recording employees taking a piss. At some point, your YouTube channel gets big enough that it's not just heterosexual life partners fucking around anymore. It's real employment. You can't be doing that shit. Leighton then takes the opportunity to go into Matt cheating on his girlfriend, which is shitty, but it's got nothing to do with Leighton or the workplace nonsense.
Then last summer, I was the only person that didn't know that Matt was cheating on his girlfriend that I was close with. Like, Matt's girlfriend was such a good person to me, and I loved her. I still do. But I didn't know that Matt was cheating on his girlfriend with a new girl that had just joined our friend group that his girlfriend was scared of and felt like was an issue. All at this exact same time, while Matt's having his little secret relationship that I didn't know about, there was a night that me, Matt, and Jim drank so much, and at the end of the night, this girl comes over, and Matt and her just like laying on the floor really, really close, and it's like it felt like middle school flirting, and it was icky, but like I wasn't seeing anything that was like, to me that consisted as cheating, but it wasn't enough for me to feel like I could go to his ex and tell her at the time, well, his current girlfriend at the time. I couldn't text her and be like, hey, Matt's doing something. Plus, I didn't want to risk my fucking job, you know?
He goes into being raped while he was underage. Yeah, again, really bad, but nothing to do with Super Mega.
I was raped by a YouTuber. He got me really fucking high, and then he raped me. And then he told me that I was his boyfriend now, and that we were, you know, we loved each other, and that's what we would do now. And the next morning, his friends told me. His friends found out. His friends told me I was so young and that I didn't know what just happened to me, and I didn't believe them because I thought I was mature for my age because he treated me like an adult, and I was like, no, we're fine.
He then goes into another employee named Jim and how he gets all this special treatment. But look at how he describes that.
Jim could just like be like, oh no, my friend had a bad morning, so I had to take him to lunch and take him out all day, and I just had to go baby my little friend, and then Matt and Ryan would just like be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, dude, when Jim has a friend that needs special care, Leighton makes fun of him for being childish. But when Leighton or Lex or any of their associates need special care, they're crying and screaming about how Super Mega doesn't care about them. How dare you? Leighton then goes into the circumstances of him getting fired. But oddly enough, he doesn't actually go into why he got fired.
Matt and Ryan were like, hey, dude, we have to talk to you. Like, if you guys remember when I drove to Vegas, I knew that whole drive that Matt and Ryan were going to fire me on Monday. Monday comes around, they tell me that they still have some things to talk about between the two of them. So they're going to talk to me on Tuesday. Tuesday comes, they're not at the office again, and I'm really paranoid. I'm terrified that I'm going to lose my job and I'm going to lose my insurance. And the insurance is all I needed Super Mega for. Obviously, I need the money to pay my bills, but I need my medication. And they, on that second day, like, I ended up texting the two of them and I asked them, I was like, can you guys just please, like, confirm to me if I have a job still or not? Because, like, I need to start processing if I need to leave California. And they were like, sorry, dude, our hands are tied for your benefit. They kept saying that. They said it was for my benefit. So, later that week, it's basically, I think it's like maybe Wednesday then is the next day. They tell me to come in. And I get there and I walk in the door and I just knew I was about to lose my job. So I was in and out in under, I would say, 20 minutes. They told me that I was done. I tried to explain to them some issues that I have with them, but they instantly shut me down and tried to explain to me that it's my fault. So I realized again that I was ignorant for trying to explain to them why they were wrong. So I just let them talk. And then Matt and Ryan tell me that I have to sign a non-disparagement contract if I want severance. They basically bragged to me that they didn't have to give me severance, but they felt like they were so good to me. Like Matt and Ryan felt like they were blessing a poor person by handing them money, and but it's 2 months severance. That's genuinely nothing. Like, I'm sorry, yeah, like, it's money obviously, but 2 months severance is so fucked up. And it wasn't even like they told me we're gonna also try to see if we can extend medical benefits or anything. They just didn't care. They're like, all right, here's 2 months rent, and you can never fucking talk about us.
So yeah, Leighton signed the NDA, he knew he couldn't do what he's doing now, and decided to do it anyway. No sympathy for this retard. Anyway, Leighton skimmed over a big part of why he got fired. He set up a Super Mega IRL event without scheduling it and informing people properly, and as a result, a bunch of fans were left on the hook when Matt and Ryan didn't know to show up. He went into how Ryan misgenders his trans partner in private.
Ryan McGee openly misgenders a trans person in his life that he cares very much about behind their back. I can't tell you how many times I would hear Ryan McGee say, I'm gonna go home to my boyfriend. Or, I'm gonna go fuck this guy. Matt would make the jokes too. This partner is such a sweet person. I didn't know them well. I don't think they ever liked me. So we just weren't ever close. But it broke my fucking heart because I would see this person and I knew they didn't know that the person that they, like, literally their fucking partner is misgendering them all the fucking time. And it literally, like, it makes me so fucking mad to see just blatant transphobia come from those fuckers, and then they turn around and are like, we are so accepting of things.
Oh, guess what? That was actually fake. Leighton had to walk it back on Twitter. He then brings up Ryan sexting fans, and like, at this point, Leighton's stream devolves into character assassination.
I believe that Super Mega is a toxic business that represents nothing good, nothing positive, and the foundation that channel is built on is fucking lies.
He says nothing of relevance from here on out. He's just rambling and repeating points and occasionally crying and shilling his upcoming show.
I have a show that I'm working on that I'm going to release soon called Only Bricks, where I interview OnlyFans models in weird situations, and I let them pick a fun Lego set. And I want to give these people who get so much hate online because dumbass incels say they're hot girls that have no personality, or they just say that they're people that just rely on their looks. I think that's such a dumb idea, and I want to give these people the opportunity to truly prove who they are.
And basically doing anything he can to pad out the stream so the donations keep rolling in.
Wait, is there an ad? Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I wish I could turn that off, but really do. I don't want to try to seem like I'm trying to monetize anything.
You can literally shut off Twitch ads in the dashboard, dude. The only legitimate parts of Leighton's story is that Matt and Ryan are still behaving like Super Mega is a frat house full of their friends, rather than them both being 30 years old running a real business. It sounds like there was some weird sexual harassment shit at the Super Mega house. Not exploitative or pleasurable or anything like that, just prank shit that went too far and is not appropriate in a business setting. They clearly need to grow up. These aren't high school friends, they're employees. But everything else Leighton talks about is irrelevant. He's simply dragging everything out for the camera in order to garner sympathy, earn some money, and get his next project off the ground. Eventually, Matt and Ryan from Super Mega responded to everything on the Super Mega channel. They each did their own vlog and have basically pieced out from the internet since. In Ryan's vlog, he immediately sells Dawn up the river, but does so by appealing to Lex's victimhood.
On the night of May 25th, Lex reached out to me through text. They wanted to talk about something. I said okay, she called, I answered, and she began to confide in me about a sexual assault that she experienced by our mutual friend, Dawn, who was our channel artist at the time. I took these allegations seriously and expressed my support for Lex, and I asked her permission to talk to Dawn about the sexual assault directly. Unfortunately, my words ended up ringing hollow as Matt and I continuously tiptoed around the subject. We didn't expect this from Dawn. Nobody expects their friend to do something this serious to another friend.
Even though Lex's whole thing was entirely about how Super Mega apparently fucked up her life by kicking her out, and only a little bit about Dawn at the start, Ryan completely sides with Lex because he's a progressive and believe all women. He throws Dawn under the bus, and then he throws himself under the bus.
We selfishly waited until we felt comfortable to have this discussion with Dawn instead of having the victims back immediately. There's no excusing the lack of tact that was used to handle this. Lex should have felt safe, and I am sorry to Lex for making them feel like they weren't heard at that time. I was spineless. Could have been handled so much better, and should have been handled so much better, especially since Lex was the one who trusted us with her story and her trauma. There's no excusing the way Matt and I handled that situation. If we were to do it right, we would have, from the get-go, fired Dawn immediately.
Going so far as to imply that he's quitting Super Mega.
I have obviously been irresponsible with the platform I was given, so as it stands, I don't deserve one. Since this is my final video, this next topic is really the only thing I care to defend myself on.
This entire vlog comes across as, like I said at the start, a calculated, utilitarian move in order to save Super Mega from the wrath of their young progressive audience. Ryan then goes after Leighton for daring to utter Daniel's name in a stream.
To address these allegations head on about me making fun of the suicide of my best friend, I just want to state that it's just untrue. The person making these claims never knew Daniel. They definitely were not a part of the group that experienced the trauma of losing him, and I think, honestly, it is disrespectful to bring him up as a weapon. I felt like he was just brought into the situation for drama's sake to try to hurt me or Matt or hurt our image. I have done enough shit to tarnish my image, but I will not stand by and let someone talk lies about the way I talked or treated my trauma in regards to Daniel. The sole focus of all of this should have been about the support that Lex needed.
You know how it is, right? Kneel for the woman, take down the gay guy. Normal stuff in Progville. The truth is, even if we assume Lex's sexual assault claim is true, Leighton is clearly just dogpiling. It happens every single time a big canceling attempt goes down. People see their chance and jump on it. Madison's doing it right now to Linus Tech Tips, something I'll likely cover in a future video. There's one last thing to check out before we move over to Matt's video, which is about 5 times as long as Ryan's.
I had inappropriate communications with fans while in a long-term committed relationship. While technically these actions are between two consenting adults, it truly is pathetic and there's no excuse for it. It's clear that instead of being responsible with the Super Mega brand, I abused my position and my power for selfish self-indulgence.
Listen, if you're a cute girl, I will 100% exploit my tiny YouTube stardom to get into your pants. You can absolutely get ahead with me by sending me your nudes. I will totally abuse my position. I don't give a fuck. Okay, let's move on to Matt's video. He immediately tells the breakup story from his point of view, where Lex dumped Dawn and then he flew Dawn out to LA to be a good friend.
So on May 19th, 2022, after returning home from Creator Clash, I got a call from Dawn in which he was crying, saying that him and Lex had just broken up. He told me he was essentially stuck in Florida because he's from Germany and he had no money and didn't know what to do. And at this time, I didn't know any specifics of what had happened with the breakup. He mentioned to me that they had been distant and then ended up just breaking up. That was the extent of my knowledge on the split at the time. Feeling bad for Dawn, I offered to get him a one-way plane ticket to LA to come crash at my place until he could find a way to get back to Germany. He took me up on the offer, and on May 23rd, he flew out to LA. When Dawn arrived, he cried to me about how heartbroken he was, and the whole time I was none the wiser on what had actually taken place between him and Lex, and if I had known, I would not have invited him out to LA to stay with me. I would not have housed him. I don't remember exactly, but I think Rav was the one who told me initially on my balcony one night, and he told me that Dawn had sexually assaulted Lex. This was something that I did not expect from Dawn, and truth be told, I had a bit of a hard time accepting it. I soon asked Dawn about this, and what he told me was he chalked it up to basically a misunderstanding in the bedroom. At this time, I did not grasp how serious this situation was, and obviously, he did not either.
Listen to that, dude. Matt is acting like it's a failing that he didn't immediately believe Lex without proof, and he had questions on whether or not his friend was capable of committing sexual assault, when that's a completely normal impulse. Matt takes the same stance that Ryan does. Even though Lex is trying to destroy Super Mega, he's supporting her against Dawn. Matt even admits that he did bring up his business in the context of the Dawn sexual assault allegations, and says that he shouldn't have done that.
I told Lex that Ryan and I fully supported her, that we believed her 100%, and that we would be there for her. To be honest, I was terrified of misstepping in this situation due to its sensitive nature and how close it was to home. I was not sure how to navigate it. This was all new territory to me. And I asked her a really stupid question because of that. I asked Lex what she wanted me and Ryan to do about the situation, which was an absolutely dumbass thing to ask. I meant it from a place of, we want to help and we will do whatever it is you want us to do to make the situation better. I now see that obviously came across as me putting the responsibility of the situation back on the victim, and I feel terrible about that. My intention was to be helpful, and I went about it very poorly. In Lex's statement, she said that I brought up technicalities over Dawn's employment, as well as me saying something along the lines of how much it would suck for Super Mega if this got out, and that Super Mega was my magnum opus, and I didn't want anything to ruin that. Over the course of the phone call, we did discuss Dawn's role with Super Mega, and while I don't recall making any of those specific comments, I do know I brought up our business and how Dawn's actions might affect that. That was completely wrong of me to do. I never should have brought up anything as trivial as that, while Lex was telling me something very difficult. I was kind of freaking out, and I was thinking out loud. It should not have even been on my mind. And that was selfish of me. What I should have done was just listened and offered support and not question anything.
Yeah, that is shit of him, but look at this double standard. Lex wants every irrational action explained by trauma or fight or flaw or whatever the fuck, but Matt makes one knee-jerk misstep and he should be destroyed? Yeah, he shouldn't have done it, but isn't Lex's entire story built on the idea that people do irrational things in the heat of the moment and we should excuse them for it? Matt, buddy, just claim you were sexually assaulted. It apparently explains everything away. The first half of Matt's video is just him recontextualizing all the various stories that Lex gave about her interactions with Dom, to paint Dom as the villain and Lex as the victim. And he and Ryan are so sorry about their part in all of it. Then at the halfway point, he says this.
I also want to address a very large chunk of Lex's video that was focused on her and Rav's time living at our office, aka the Super Megaplex.
Did that not sound a little passive-aggressive to you? Like, he can't come out and shit on Lex, but he's like, yeah, bitch, we all know you spent most of your video not even talking about Dom. Matt knows that the smear is in, and he has to reply to it, without throwing Lex under the bus, since she's a victimized whammon, but also while still presenting his own case. He does this by wording it like there was miscommunication on all sides, we were all just so busy, etc., etc., when she was saying it was clearly manipulative, or there was a secret meaning behind these messages or something. Then Matt provides new receipts, things that Lex didn't show in her 2-hour video, where Lex painted their relationship post moving out of the Super Mega house and back to Nashville as being very bitter, and that she was left homeless and stuck in hostels or whatever. They were actually texting back and forth and being very friendly all the way through the end of 2022, months after apparently Lex said she had stopped running with them.
I thought that after I apologized to her last July, things had smoothed out, and I think you could see why I would think that. But that communication ceased around the time that we fired Leighton, who is a close friend of hers.
And now it all comes together, doesn't it? Lex is just fine with everyone and everything until her friend Leighton gets fired from Super Mega for his incompetence. And only then did these allegations start coming out. It seems to me like Lex and Leighton put together this quasi-manifesto shitting on Super Mega and front-loaded it with Lex's reinterpretation of her relationship with Dawn as sexual assault in order to make the whole story easier to swallow. In the whole whirlwind of Lex trying to make everything stick, she brought up how Matt fucked some porn star.
Not only did he cheat on his girlfriend and broke up with her, and then she found out after because Jim was living with the new girl. Well, she's still friends with Jim. Like, they're both friends with Jim. He also takes a break with the new girlfriend he's with to basically solicit a sex worker girl that he was into to come live in LA and move from like across the US before he decided that he wanted to go back to the girlfriend that he was just with. So if I were him, I would probably be reevaluating my life as well.
The porn star in question, Morgan, or Morgpie on social media, also came out with her own dumbfuck allegations about how Matt fucked her and ghosted her, and how she expected a relationship and how awful he is. They're not really worth going over because she's just stupid. The charge here is, we had sex and you didn't call me back. Which, man, in an age of Tinder and hookups, that doesn't really land anymore, let alone with somebody who does fucking porn. In any case, Matt simply admitted it. He said it was a hookup between his real relationships, and then provided texts showing that this was the case and Morgan knew it.
In August 2022, when I was single and in between relationships, I sexted with her for one night and ultimately slept with her for 2 nights in September when she was visiting Los Angeles. During our hookups, I explicitly stated to Morgan that this was a hookup and that I had just gotten out of a relationship and I was not looking for anything, and this is something she acknowledged. I actually brought this up more than once. After she left LA to go back home, I could tell that she had caught some feelings and I did not want to lead her on, so I began to kind of distance myself. Shortly after, I also ended up working through a rough patch and started dating my current girlfriend, and I talked to Morgan even less after this. We stopped communication. I didn't feel like it was appropriate to, be talking to someone who the relationship I had was primarily sexual while I had a girlfriend. We pretty much lost all contact after I started dating my current girlfriend, and I figured that that was normal, and that's kind of just what is the typical life cycle of a hookup. I was very surprised to hear what Morgan had to say on stream, considering last month in June, we had a very pleasant conversation where we tied up any loose ends and smoothed everything out, and I'm going to share that conversation. Morgan reached out to me on June 8th and said, "Hey Matt, hope you're doing well." I said, "Hey, I've been doing okay. Been really busy and stressed, but I'm pushing through. How have you been?" She said, "Oh man, me too. Supremely stressed, but I'm coming to LA this month and I'll be doing so much cool shit, so I'm excited. Glad to hear you're pushing through." I said, "I'm just kind of exhausted with tour coming up and stuff, but I'll be okay. I've been doing therapy a lot, which has been super helpful, and glad to hear you're doing cool shit." She replies with, "Oh, I'm so happy to hear therapy has been helping. I've had mixed results with that. Great when it actually works out." She replies with, "Yeah, man, I'm excited, but yeah, just thought I'd check up on you, because even though things got a little weird, I'll always care about you, dude. Hope you have a great tour too." I respond with, "I appreciate it, and I'm sorry things got a little weird. I'm not very good at navigating stuff, and when I got in a relationship shortly after, I wasn't sure how to not be awkward about it. I care about you too, and I don't feel weird at all about things or about you." She said, "Yeah, I kind of know what happened, LOL, people talk, but cool, man, I'm glad things aren't weird." I said, "Same, glad it's not weird. I feel a lot better now, LOL." She said, "Me too, I hate loose ends." And I said, "Same, they bother me so much, LOL, and for clarity, I never felt bad or negative about you. I just didn't know how to not be awkward after a hookup. I'm not really a hookup person, especially since I'm in a relationship now. Sorry for my awkwardness. Glad we're all good." Morgan replies with, yeah, I felt a bit sour about it, TBH, because I'm not really a hookup person either. Loki caught me with some feels and I felt pretty used afterwards, but shit happens and that's on me, so I don't harbor any ill will towards you. I mean, I didn't expect a relationship or anything, but yeah, LOL. I responded with, I feel ya, and I'm sorry for acting in any way that made you feel used. That was never my intention, and I'm just kind of awkward with this stuff. I could tell a little that you were catching feels, and I didn't want to lead you on and hurt you. Morgan said, I really appreciate that. I'm just a big baby, and when I open myself up like that to someone, it's because I'm really into them, contrary to what my profession may lead you to think. But I'm glad we could talk about this. I appreciate you talking about this with me, even though you aren't obligated to at all. I said, of course, I'm really glad we're talking about it too, because I didn't like feeling awkward or having a loose end. And she said, yeah, same. W. I respond with a cool sunglasses smiley face, and that was the last time we talked.
So, why did Morgan jump on this bandwagon? Well, maybe because she was one of the first people involved in Leighton's new show.
Morg Pie is someone that I met and didn't need to like me, you know, like didn't have to. But especially after all this crazy shit, she still was so sweet to me. And like wanted to record with me, and like she liked the idea of my show. And so I recorded this insane fucking episode of Only Bricks with Morgan, and we didn't even get like fucking 3% of the Lego build done.
Everything here seems to revolve around Leighton. Lex and Morgan are his friends, helping him out with their femoid tears. But it really just seems like this is Leighton's campaign to ruin Super Mega, and Matt says as much.
A former employee of Super Mega named Leighton Stollard has made some very serious accusations against me and Ryan. I did not plan on, nor did I want to make a segment of this video based around this, but after everything Leighton has said about us publicly, I feel that I have no choice but to respond and give my side of the story and show receipts. We fired Leighton from working at Super Mega in March 2023, and since then, he has led a vindictive campaign to cancel us, to deplatform us, to ruin our image. Basically, we were not happy with his performance. He had been causing problems with his mood swings and outbursts at the office, as well as a general performance that we didn't like. We made the difficult decision to let him go.
Even Leighton's claims that the workplace was full of homophobic jokes that he just hated and felt alienated due to ends up being not true, as Matt shows off many texts of Leighton being totally cool with it.
I find it a little ironic that he complained about this, considering, for example, in December we were recording a podcast when he came in unannounced and showed us his cock and balls.
Late 20s, Chuck. Hey, Leighton.
Hey. Whoa.
Somebody's putting on.
Do you see his balls?
Leighton, you want to come take a seat?
Do you see his balls? I don't think it's appropriate for the podcast.
Matt then shows screenshots from a dedicated Super Mega hate Discord where they plan to help Leighton cancel Super Mega by using any scandal they can get their hands on. We just need a piece of gossip that's big enough that their sponsor will want to drop Super Mega. Well, what if you tried to spin something like they covered up a sexual assault? Would that do the deed? And it worked, at least initially. Super Mega went into a subscriber death spiral. Their community subreddit was an open revolt. Everyone was disavowing them. And Leighton's own bitterness finally won the day, at least initially. This is a way for Leighton and Lex and Morgan to try and bolster their careers by destroying larger creators they used to associate with. It's that simple, dude. And it all works because in 2023, you can be as shitty of a person you want and simply say trauma, and it's all excused. Believe all women, guys. Don't be a rape apologist by asking questions.
Rav was also trying to figure out what had gone down. And at this point, I don't think any of us still were taking it as seriously as we should have been. And that is something that I sincerely regret because we did not take it as seriously right from the jump as we should have. Instead, we asked questions and tried to do some detective work and get to the bottom of it.
No, Matt, no. Doing detective work is supporting the rape. The worst part is that Don's career is completely in tatters. I think he's innocent. He's been completely ruined by this. This was clearly a group of people who wanted to wreck Super Mega, and they decided to destroy Don in the process because he was an easy tool to use. After all, Don's a fat guy. Who would ever believe that somebody as hot as Lex would ever consent to dating him? Lex's current boyfriend is also a fat socialist soy boy. She just seems to have a type.
What happened with Super Mega? Listen, Nick made a video about it, but all you need to know is that they're bad. Go to their subreddit. There's plenty of information. Google Super Mega subreddit and go there now. Look at anything. Look at the first post. It's been trending all weekend. It's funny how fast everyone turned on Super Mega. Yeah, and I think that goes to show, right? kind of self-fulfilling in a sense.
You know, it kind of makes both Lex's and Leighton's claim that they don't want drama and they just want to tell their stories and empower other victims ring really fucking hollow when they're gloating at the Super Mega subscriber count going below 1 million. Said socialist soy boy runs a small-time crumbtuber channel, putting out the worst leftist garbage content imaginable, in between tweeting about how he totally met the Super Mega guys and they totally use slurs constantly, even though Matt confirmed he doesn't really know this guy.
Shortly after, one of Leighton's best friends, who is Lex's boyfriend, tried to instigate drama on Twitter by lying and saying that he has heard us say the N-word multiple times. In reality, we've only met this individual a handful of times, and it's mostly been at social events and always accompanied by Lex. So to think that we would just casually be dropping the N-word with a hard R in front of not only someone who's a stranger, but also a woman of color, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
This entire group of people are just leeches. They've only temporarily bound themselves together in order to take down Super Mega. In fact, Leighton shit-talked Lex behind her back when she was squatting at the Super Mega house. When these texts came out, I wonder if Lex felt like a fucking retard, burning all of her credibility to prop this little shit up. In any case, Leighton wasn't doing anything in the name of accountability, he just wanted to hurt Super Mega.
I just hope you all believe that, like, this is not a push for me to try to get clout. I'm fucking terrified right now.
I don't buy that he's terrified for 1 second. This is Leighton's ticket to internet fame, being the guy who got Super Mega cancelled, and then plugging his new show, of course. It was his plan all along. Morgan's part of Leighton's plan was ultimately insignificant. She simply served to be another source of Matt looking bad. After all, Matt and Morgan were on good terms, right up until she started talking to Leighton.
Following when I had that text conversation with Morgan in June where we smoothed things over, Morgan began hanging out with our ex-employee Leighton more, and I have not heard from her since that conversation until I saw her stream.
Lex's story, however, was the core of their plans. Her claim was the catalyst for everything. Not because she was actually a victim of Dawn. I don't buy that for a second. They simply prefaced the whole canceling event with the Dawn story to make it seem more legitimate. Lex's actual grievance is she feels slighted because her next big career move was moving out to LA, making connections in the creator space, and trying to get something going that way. That failed because she mooched off Super Mega for months, and everyone got tired of her being around.
As time went on and weeks turned into months of them staying at the office, we were unsure of their plans and how motivated they were to actually find a place to move into.
There's simply no reason to believe this failed Me Too attempt of Don. In my opinion, Don's the victim. His career's in tatters, he's lost all of his connections, there's no proof of anything, and it's all real believable because Lex is a pretty woman and Don is an unattractive guy. The post-Me Too era that we're currently living in 2023 is fucking disgusting. Furthermore, because Lex self-IDs as a she, they, non-binary trans person, she's not a woman, and therefore, under the laws of Me Too, I am no longer obligated to believe her. See you later, bitch!
Anything and everything was on the table, no matter what your race or your identity or your no matter what, like, you could be made fun of by those guys.
Someone who had been with Leighton and a group of his friends told us that he had been flaunting that if things ever went south with us, he could just easily cancel us. He not only propagated a lot of the jokes that he claimed to be offended by, but he participated in the jokes. He even encouraged them. We always wanted Leighton to feel comfortable even when we were making jokes. We never wanted him to feel targeted with any jokes. His tone changed completely the moment he was fired.
I felt so fucking weak.
I don't know. I'm a big boy or whatever, but like when I was like, oh, I'm non-binary, I just woke up and I was like, I'm bored. I'm she they now.
And
That's
I'm
just
sure
how that works.
And then you got a ton more friends.
You got the crowds. You got the eyes on you.
Everybody's like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It felt like a lie to me.